It can be all too easy to neglect the importance of nature in our lives, particularly in modern urban spaces, and never more so than in a city as vast and sprawling as London. London Wildlife Trust, the only charity solely dedicated to protecting the capital's wildlife and wild spaces, manages 6 reserves in the London boroughs of Bromley and Croydon in the North Downs, comprising significant short grassland habitat. These are some of the capital's richest areas of biodiversity, and support and protection for these extraordinary green spaces is crucial. We need to ensure our natural habitat is protected by teaching ourselves and our children about nature. We need to raise awareness of the beauty on our doorsteps and the value of London's wildlife, not only for our well-being, but also for its own intrinsic worth.
This land is open to the public 24 hours a day, and it is about giving people a sense of ownership of the land that's on their doorstep, definitely. I think it's important in the sense of environmental education, because a lot of people are kind of dislocated from the natural world, and particularly in the case of orchids and butterflies, because they're easy to miss. And this is an incredibly biodiverse area, and there's a lot to enjoy here.
Isn't that beautiful green? Sometimes they're yellow, sometimes they're lovely green.
London Wildlife Trust Open Days, which include butterfly walks and children's activities, are a great way to engage the local community with their green spaces.
This Chalk Downland Reserve has got very, very many interesting and important species, but one of the crucial species is Britain's smallest butterfly, the small blue. And the small blue is, like many butterflies, very choosy, and it relies on only one food plant, and that is kidney vetch.
Kidney vetch is soon displaced by the process of succession as other competing plants start to colonise the bare ground. For this valuable plant to persist, there is a need for the ground to be repeatedly disturbed. This can be done by scraping away the topsoil to expose the bare chalk.
Right, so here we have a freshly made scrape, and what's quite interesting is that we've got some kidney vetch there and a bit here, and there's a new young one here just coming through. Chalk grassland itself is a really, really important habitat. So it's been likened to Britain's rainforest equivalent. It has more plant species than any other habitat per square metre in the country. These 2 particular grasses are a mainstay of the animals that graze on site. So they'll eat the herbage of it as it grows, which is the actual leaf blades that grow from the lower down. And they're key food sources for the sheep on site.
The 1 Year from Thorn to Orchid project, funded by Heritage Lottery Fund, worked with volunteers to manage these reserves and focused on increasing the numbers of people who know about and hopefully become more involved in the chalk grassland reserves on their doorstep. This project has enabled a lot of restoration work to take place by selectively removing scrub and felling trees to allow grassland and their wildflower communities, such as orchids, to recover. One of the methods used to maintain this rare and valuable habitat is through the use of conservation grazing.
And it's much better for the wildlife for them to be grazed, because the sheep eat small patches here and there. If you cut an area, you end up taking everything away all at once, and you get rid of all the seed sources and all the niches for insects.
Goats will eat just about anything, so we took down a lot of the scrub, a lot of the big stuff, then brought in the goats, properly looked after. They've got water, they've got shelter, there's a little tent put up for them there, and the idea is that they will quite happily and naturally chomp down everything down to ground level.
It takes a few years for a meadow to really establish itself. This is what the whole of this big meadow used to be like, and we've left a few areas like this for birds to nest in by chopping down all the trees, which just created an environment for so many different types of flowers to emerge. So these beautiful daisies here wouldn't have had a chance to grow because it would have been full of scrub. All this lovely grass here you can see wouldn't have been here because the sun wouldn't have been able to get to it.
Much of the work required to maintain the reserves, which support a range of nationally uncommon or scarce wildflowers, up to 43 butterfly species, and a range of mollusks, spiders, grasshoppers, beetles, slow worms, and hoverflies, comes down to a dedicated team of volunteers.
The birds you see include sparrowhawks in the sky, buzzards. You'll be surprised by how much butterflies, moths, wildflowers, birds and reptiles you get here. And I think that's why it's special.
You get some fresh air, you get the beautiful open countryside as the backdrop, you get to meet some like-minded people.
Just makes you feel so fantastic coming out here and working with a team of people.
The orchids, the bird life and so forth is just fantastic. And it's an extra dimension. It just keeps me active. It just makes sure I have another dimension to my life.
At the end of the day, when you go home, you just feel absolutely exhausted, but you just laughed so much, and you've done so much exercise, you sleep well, and you feel really feel contented.
While a great deal of work has been done, this is still just the beginning. Planning for longer-term management and monitoring is needed, as well as finding the necessary resources to help secure the future of these valuable reserves. London Wildlife Trust needs your help to conserve these special places for the future. You can volunteer your time to help with conservation work, or you can donate to support the London Wildlife Trust.